Hey everybody, again, still on the trail. All right, so again, I'm just gonna do a quick span. This portion is just like such a great view of this waterway, and it's just awesome. Sound of the water. Okay, so I want to talk about responsibility. All right, so as we journey in this thing called life, you know, when we are young children, young kids, our parents take the responsibility for us. Our parents are our covering. Our parents are supposed to be, you know, our source of protection and reliance and blessings. And you can pass me.
Sure.
Have a good one.
You too.
So, you know, our parents are our source for this, but in turn, sometimes what happens is if we have a somewhat difficult upbringing with our family, then we may choose to have a different idea of trust, and also you know, maybe even distrust in people who are supposed to care for us and make us feel that, you know, we have that support. And at the same time, as we look to the different levels of support with family, as children, we become young adults, and as young adults, we're being prepared into being groomed into, you know, what it means to become an adult, you know, and whether that is through, you know, the bat mitzvah session, or just becoming a young teenager, and some of the things that we go through preparing for adulthood, preparing to become 18 or preparing to become 21. There is a season of, you know, like letting go, like of the training wheels of our parents, and then, you know, sprouting forth our own wings and learning how to become an adult. But it's not instant. It takes time. It's over time and over the journey that we learn how to become a responsible adult. So if I reflect back on some of those early days of separating from mom and dad from the nest and going out on my own and, you know, getting my own apartment, if you will, I remember that a lot of the things that I knew in my own home of what was safe, and, you know, these tools are kept here because, and they're stored in this particular way for safety purposes, and these things that that we are being my family, my parents were protecting from certain you know, mishaps because of the way that they stored certain things, or informed us, like, this is the way that you put knives in the dishwasher, you put the blades down, for example. And what I'm saying is I learned those habits and those patterns based on what my family had taught me, and what my family had taught me, then I took into my own practice, right? So now I'm in my first apartment and I have a roommate, and this roommate is putting all the knives facing up, and I go to reach in and I cut my wrist, not on purpose, but because she put the knives facing up instead of facing down. And so this is where, again, we start to learn that other people have different ways of doing things. Their parents might not have taught them the same way that our parents taught us. And there might be differences. And then we may have to come to new agreements with the people in our life. And in this case, with my roommate. And I said, you know, I get that you've been doing this for a long time this way with the knives up. And I get that I've been doing it this way with the knives down. And I said, but let's at least make an agreement that it's safer to put the knives blades down. And she was like, yeah, you know, I didn't know that. No one taught me that, but I agree with you. And so then together we held each other accountable to put the knives down. And many times I was the one flipping the knives, you know, back down because she forgot, you know. But the point is that it's a journey, and it was a practice that I had that habit, but then it had to become a practice for her to make that new habit, right? And over time, I could then relax because she had learned the habit of turning the knives down. And I know this is a really stupid, simple example of, you know, managing things a certain way, but it illustrates that how we are brought up by our family will most likely dictate how we show up outside when we're on our own in the world, for many of us. And for some of us who have had difficult or dysfunctional family upbringings, which many of us have, we may want to do the opposite of what we were taught because we don't want to repeat the same circumstances or the same trauma that we already experienced while we were within our family. So that just goes to show that, you know, it's an unpredictable way of being. It's hard to predict how someone's going to act, because on one hand you think they might act the same way because they learned these particular patterns a certain way, but then if that person did not feel safe or distrusted someone in their family, they may want to do the opposite of what they were taught, to step outside of what their family taught them in order to say, I like this better, or this is safer, or what have you. And so what I'm getting at is that all of us are on this journey, okay? And sometimes, in a pause, it's really beautiful, isn't it? Some of us are really overwhelmed by the differences of what the world teaches, which is pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. You know, seek your senses all the time. Do whatever feels right to you, okay? And the basic instructions before leaving Earth teaches something very different. It says, constrain and restrain yourself so that you are doing only what God approves of, that you are only doing things that God would be proud of. So therefore, pull away from what the world is teaching and be able to dig deep in what the Bible is sharing, so that there's a foundation on the rock, and that the foundation on the rock is Jesus, and that the Bible is teaching over and over again all these threaded patterns and dots of connection, which are like, we had sin in the Garden of Eden, and that's what messed up everything. And that's why everybody in the world today is all drawn like a magnet to all that sin, all those pleasures. That's all they want. And we have to pull away with that magnetic pull on us. We have to pull away from that sin consciously, and by surrendering to God, the God of Israel, by surrendering to Jesus at the cross, burial, resurrection, we accept and believe that there's something better than what the world offers us. There's something better than the trauma and the abuse and the destruction that people in the world are creating. There's something better than liars and addicts and active addiction and narcissists. There's something better than that. And that is people who are doing their best one day at a time to know who God is, to discover who God is, to discover who they are with God. And as we explore that and we get guided into that, we become a different version of ourselves with this new information, with this new way of living. And as Jesus taught us, he is the way, the truth, and the life. And when we follow him in the way and the truth and the life, we are blessed. We receive certain blessings that we're unable to receive when we're in the world, when we're stuck in sin, when we're going our own way, when we're leading by our ego. But when we surrender to the Lord and we say, Lord, you know what's best for me. You know what feeds my soul. I'm going to surrender my day to you, and I believe that you're going to fulfill my requests because you're leading me in a way that is pleasing to you. And again, I want to talk about coming back to the topic of responsibility. So I want to tell you that what I really wanted to do from a pleasure state was stay on the couch and hide under the covers. That's what I wanted to do, okay? I was really tired, had a really restless night of sleep, and I was struggling with this Facebook thing, trying to solve the problem, and I couldn't solve it, so I was really feeling defeated. And